Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
No problem.
I guess you got all the time in the world now, right? You hung them up.
Well, it's only been a day, so and we just finished playing last Sunday, so it's really not a whole lot of time to think about that stuff.
So what went into the decision of saying this is finally it for me as the head coach?
Well, it's been 37 years, and over the last year or so, just I think the passion and the energy is kind of diminished a little bit, and and family wise, I had three children that I just didn't spend quite the time you'd like to spend with, and now I have three grandchildren. I'd like to be part of their lives. So there were many factors that weighed in on this, and but I think for the most part, just the inconsistency of the enthusiasm and the passion, which I really kind of felt like during this season. There were days where I just felt like it was awesome to be out on the practice field. And there were days I would say, hey, I think this is getting a little bit old. So again, in fairness to the program and the kids, it's time just to pass the torch on to someone that's going to be a little more energy, a little more enthusiasm, and a little more passionate than I was this past season.
Well, Coach, I mean, you got to be proud of what you accomplished there. So many wins and so many championships, and really built West Deptford into one of the premier programs in South Jersey. Well,
you are, and you reflect back on the people that had great influences on your development, and down in the area, shore area, certainly Kenny Williams at Mainland, and Dave Bryan, who was the head coach back in the 70s, who I played for, and people like that were just such a tremendous influence. And the older you get, the more emotional you become, and I think because you just appreciate people like that. Sure, we're proud of what was accomplished and the players that came through the program and developed into men and great husbands and now fathers. And when you see them about, you're proud of where they're at, and hopefully you had a little piece, a little something to do with that.
Now, I guess you mentioned that's pretty cool. I'm sure you've coached some of the sons of players you've had in the past, right?
Yes, we have. Actually,
what's that like when you're coaching a kid's son and you remember his father in high school?
Well, you're going to get the support from the father, that's for sure. And but hey, you feel like time's passing pretty fast. You better enjoy this.
Yeah, that's got to be such a neat thing to see, though. I mean, you remember this guy as a 16-year-old coaching him up, and now all of a sudden, 20, 25 years later, you're coaching another 16-year-old who looks just like him.
It is. Again, you're proud to see guys that played for you many years ago now raising children and still supporting the program in so many ways, and being able to have an impact on generations of players. It's just it's rewarding. It really is, and something I'll always reflect and be proud of.
Talk with Coach Folsom from West Deptford football. And Coach, West Deptford kind of reminds me of some of these other real proud traditions around here. Teams like Haddonfield and even Brick Township in Ocean County. These teams where guys will come out on a Friday night that graduated 25 years ago and still be wearing their varsity jackets.
Well, it is, and that's one of the reasons you get into coaching is to create memories that will last a lifetime for students. And we always talk about 4 years of commitment and a lifetime of memories. And that's always a goal of ours. When we start each season, we tell the seniors, hey guys, let's leave our own legacy and let's create memories that you'll be able to talk to your children about many years from now. And I think that's a goal of most head coaches. And I think we were able to reach that goal.
Now, Coach, a legendary college football coach, Tubby Raymond, just passed away from Delaware. Really revolutionized that wing T offense and kind of an offense you like to run there. How much influence did he have on you in running that offense? How did you get into that offense?
Well, again, back in the early days, we spent many days, weeks, years down in Delaware, and I still work with many of the disciples of Tubby Raymond, Steve Verbit, Joe Susan, guys like that. And, Charlie Roman, who's always over the Holy Spirit. These guys I keep in contact with every day. A half hour ago, I was on the phone with Steve Verbit, who's the defensive coordinator at Princeton University. He played and coached with Cubby Raymond, and we were talking about him extensively. And but he had a direct impact on a lot of the stuff we've done over the years, because he was kind of like our go-to person, our go-to program when we were developing our program.
So what was the did you have any experience with that as a player? Like what got you into that offense? I know coaches a lot of times they tend to stick with what worked for them as a player when they were in high school or college.
Well, when I first came out of Millersville University, I started coaching at St. Joe with Paul Sacco. I came out as a defensive, I kind of have a defensive mind, but in high school you coach both ways, and so I had to learn a system, and the system at the time was wing T, and that's what Chuck Donahue had ran at St. Joe when he was there. When Paul Sacco took over the program, I was part of that. So that was what I learned. And, my initial experience with it was with Paul Sacco, and I continued with Pete Lancetta, and and that was something that kind of stuck with me, and we developed it into our own system, and that's what we stuck with and believed in.
Man, you're throwing out all these names, Coach. It's kind of cool to see how deep these football ties run in South Jersey.
They are. I mean, we're all in the same family, one way or another, whether it be competitively across the field from one another or at clinics, camps, working with each other. And, but we're all in the same fraternity, and it's a pretty tight knit.
We're talking with Clyde Folsom,
Bobby Weiss down in Atlantic City. He was such a tremendous influence on so many of the things we do off the field, weight program and in motivational. He's one of the greatest motivational high school coaches I've ever been around.
Sorry for cutting you off there, Coach. I just wanted to remind people we're talking with Coach Clyde Folsom of West Deptford High School football. And Coach, I know you've only had about a week to think about it here in your post-coaching career, and what really stands out to you? Anything in particular about your 3 decades plus at West Deptford?
Just the relationships that you, and as I mentioned, the fraternity that you're part of. You're just so proud to be around so many great people and what they stand for. Not just players, but former coaches and coaches in South Jersey and actually in the state. I'm very close with Donnie Smolin up at Lenape Valley, and what a legend he is. And they're just wonderful people, not just football coaches, but great people. Their work ethic, their attention to detail, their loyalty to each other and people. It's remarkable.
So, Coach, what did the family think when you announced your decision? Were they kind of, did they believe you at first, or were they like, I don't know, I don't know if this guy's going to really hang it up?
Well, I don't know if they believe me at first. I've been talking about it for several years.
Right. A
lot of coaches do when they get up in there, and they just can't. It's tough to pull the trigger, but initially they were a little upset about it because there's so many fond memories of when they were growing up and running down the sidelines, being at practices, being part of the programs. My son, who to this day still comes to a majority of our games and is on our sidelines. So they understand there's going to be a void in our lives, but they also understand it's the beginning of a new chapter, and that chapter could be spending more time with them and their families.
Now, Coach, when you first started coaching, did you ever think you'd be still coaching 37 years later?
I never really thought about it. Football has been pretty much my entire life, and something, it's made me who I am, whatever that is. And it's the greatest sport going, and there's so many lessons to be learned, and it just develops young men, gives them direction, and I've always felt like it's always given me that through my former coaches and helped me along the way and make me believe in certain things and instill in a great work ethic. I owe so much to the game, and as I worked through it and put the years in, and it just was always every year was a new challenge, and always had a special meaning.
Yeah, Coach, real quick before we let you go, I know talking to high school coaches throughout my career as a journalist, and one thing that stands out to me is they always love talking about the kids who maybe weren't the stars of the team, but maybe for one reason or another really stuck with the game and how much it helped them out as a young man and turned them into a winner in life down the road. I'm sure you have a ton of stories like that.
Well, I was talking to one of my players the other day about being an unsung hero, and the programs are really built around the guys who aren't on the field. They're the guys that put the time in on the practice field, that put unbelievable efforts in the weight room, but they just don't have the skill set to get on the field in critical situations. And that's what programs are all about. Those guys that can accept those roles and play them well and still be a leader in their own way are really what defines programs. And I just think those guys mean so much. I mean, there's an old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and they're those guys that just are unbelievable. And they're the guys when you reflect back on, you wonder how do they do it and why do they do it, and you want to give them so much credit because sticking with it and providing the necessary leadership that's as a non-starter or even a person gets on the field, it's just so special.
Coach, we really appreciate you taking a few minutes, and it's been a pleasure watching you coach throughout your career here, and I know you've meant so much to South Jersey football, so we thank you for joining the show, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who will have all kind of Clyde Folsom stories, and we'd probably fill up a whole show with a call-in segment.
Well, thank you very much, and have a great holiday.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
That was Coach Clyde Folsom. Recently hung it up at West Deptford after 37 years, and